But that first step is you have to design a business model that is desirable.
When I initially moved back to Pensacola, I had a meeting with Lloyd. Lloyd invited me for breakfast, and I was telling him, man, I still have an idea for the entertainment industry. This is what I wanted to do. He was like, all right, I got started up on the blocks. So I need you to start coming to start up on the blocks and get a little more information on how to work through the tech ecosystem and take your idea and we'll get you where you need to go. My company is called The Know, is an app that is streamlining business for the entertainment industry. Yeah, so if you're a musician, what you would do is pretty much jump on the platform, you'll create a profile, but the way we created the profile is pretty much a cleaner way. So now if they want more information about you, you'll connect your social media platforms, your streaming platforms, and that way they can go directly to it. What we also have included is your calendar. So pretty much you can set your days, you can set your price for your days and automate your booking. So initially talking to Lloyd, my idea was all here, it was there, it was over here, it was over there. It was like, all right, Quinn, I get it. You got a lot that you want to do, but we need you to bring it in just a little bit and then work on your pitch, your story, and how you're going to bring it full circle to get people to understand what you're trying to create.
Most of the programs here wasn't inclusive, and so we said we'll focus on helping founders of color. We also start at the beginning of the thing, at the idea stage, whereas a lot of the programs you see here locally, they start after you're up, and that's not very efficient unless if you don't have a lot of money, you can't recover from your mistakes. And the lean startup system, it actually helps you make mistakes faster before you spend a lot of money. You don't actually start building anything until you got customer buy-in.
There was a need for small businesses to bring brand awareness to their business. I see there's a lot of makers and bakers that they're making all of these goodies and these products, but they can't market it, they can't sell it at the same time, and there needs to be kind of like that middleman, that middle person to help bring economic growth to some of the small businesses in Pensacola. So Taste of Pensacola, I came up with that idea during the pandemic when I saw things at that time that Amazon couldn't fulfill. They didn't even have those products, but the local people in the community, they did. And so there was a ton of people coming out saying, hey, I make masks. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. All the local people here that are just as talented that can actually make those products. And so I wanted to kind of showcase who they were. So with Taste of Pensacola, our income streams, we have several of them. We have the corporate America, we do corporate gifting, just regular consumers, different Pensacola natives that don't live here that want to purchase our boxes, like a taste of weddings, distribution. So we also do bulk sales. So for a private airline, if they want some local snacks and goodies on their passenger flights, they will come to Taste of Pensacola and we will source their vendors here locally, and we'll give a small business owner an opportunity to have reoccurring monthly sales. I've always had a really big vision for Taste of Pensacola. I knew that it could go beyond just local. I know that maybe other communities could possibly use the same platform that I'm trying to build. And I always have these big visions, but I never know how to even get there. Where do I start? I know it's more than, there's a lot of technical things behind it. I know there's a lot of research, but that connection, I never had it until, thankfully, I met and was introduced to Startups on the Blocks and was able to just learn more about how to grow it in terms of data. Things I just never thought about, framework, words like traction. There's a lot of things that I just did not know about and language that I need to know in order to get funding for my business. There's just a lot that I didn't know.
I would go to the stores and look online. They didn't have a wide variety of natural hair products about 8 years ago. And the ones that they did have, the ingredients, it would say that they were all natural. And when I would research the ingredients, a lot of the ingredients were not natural. I make everything, my shampoo, conditioner, I have an oil that I make, and I have 2 different separate butters. Like I had some people who were completely bald and grew their hair. It's about giving women their confidence back in their hair. I have this salon and then I have a second salon, and I have my products in about 5 beauty supply stores. So I need a manufacturer to keep up with the demand at this point. Startup on the Blocks has helped my business grow. Send me to different people. I'm able to do different pitch competitions to apply for grants in the community for small businesses. Lloyd's a really good person to connect with. He has a lot of resources here in the community that can help small businesses grow. If you have a product out there and you're trying to go big time, he's the person that you would want to meet with.
So it's really important to have some type of support because 9 times out of 10, most founders start out on their own. And to have somebody that has an idea of how the ecosystem works and is able to tap into other resources and bring back to the community, and that pretty much has encountered some of the roadblocks or going through the same roadblocks that we're currently going through and understands where you're at, your culture and how you respond to things, is a big help because you don't really have too many people that have access to what we have access to here in the community. And a lot of people believe that you have to leave and go to bigger cities to do the things that we're doing here. But I mean, it's one thing to have exposure, but you have to actually know it's here in the community in order to take advantage of the resources. So I get approached and I talk to friends all the time that wants to either start an idea or hear that I'm actually doing the app and wants to know more information about how are you doing it or what's the process, what's the path. I'm like, man, we have somebody here, Startup on the Blocks, Lloyd Richard. And Lloyd is here, he's a great resource to the community and to founders that's trying to learn the ecosystem. So join Startup on the Blocks.
Welcome, welcome. How's everybody out there? Welcome to Startup on the Blocks. Crystal Logan is here. We'll get her on stage here. How are you doing, Crystal?
Hi, everyone.
We're all excited to have you here to learn about this, what does it take to create a video game. So we'll get started by thanking our sponsors. And so we're fortunate that we have such great sponsors who support what we're doing and help us keep the program rolling here for these past we coming up on 3 years in August. So we're excited about what we're doing. FPL, they're one of our founding sponsors for Startup on the Blocks. So we're glad to have them, and they're continuing to support us each year. And this year we got off with the Bikes and Technology Foundation, and that's how I met Crystal. Yes, and so we're excited about that. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. The Pensacola Chamber, we're actually want to introduce this program to more founders across here in Pensacola and Escambia County. So they're on board to help us do that. And Startup Science, they provide our training platform that teaches you how to go from a vision to an exit. So we're glad to be involved with them. Small Business Development Center, of course, Industry Hotel, they actually sponsored, I think, at least 4 of our pitch competitions. So we're glad to have them as partners to kind of move forward. Renaissance Bank, they came on this year and are supporting us with the program as well. We partnered with the Gulf Coast Minority Chamber to kind of make sure their members are aware of all these opportunities. Bantucola is our streaming partner. CoLab, they support us in our pitch competitions, and also we're bringing them on this year. They're going to help with the coaching of our founders, so we're excited about that. And our local Pensacola Blacks in Technology chapter and the First Bank, they've been supporting us, helping fund the pitch competitions, et cetera, and also helping with the judging. So that's a nice group of sponsors there. It's great to have that kind of support with that program. Yeah, all right. So Crystal, why don't you come off mute there and do a little short introduction of yourself?
Sure. My name is Crystal. I'm originally from Washington, D.C., but I moved to Charlotte last 3 years. I am primarily a software engineer, at least by daylight, and a gamer at night.
Oh, wow.
I just recently started my game studio because I've noticed for a long time now that there aren't a lot of video games with Black characters, or at least as a main lead. And there's not a lot of game studios that support a lot of Black people. So.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you here, and we want to help and make sure you're successful in your journey there as a founder. So we want to talk a little bit about what we do here at Startup on the Blocks. We work with individuals who are thinking about becoming a founder, We work with founders who at the idea stage. We work with founders, that have their MVP up and running. But what we do is we try to make sure that they learn the skills and best practices for growing a startup. And so as they're doing that, then they can unlock a lot of the resources in the startup ecosystem. So, but it starts off with the mindset and learning how to communicate with the stakeholders in the ecosystem. So if you got an idea, they expect you to pitch it in a certain way. If you're filling out an application for a pitch competition or accelerator program, they expect you to know the answer to the question. So that's what we make sure you learn these best practices. So so have you noticed anything different about being a founder and how you have to change the way you think about things, Crystal?
Yes, because you're thinking about, obviously making money, but you're also thinking about, how you're going to make your product successful, and as well as how you're going to market to your customers, which is a bit different when you're going into gaming and game studios.
Yes, and so yeah, because like this, so the average person may not know what's being a founder is like and what's expected, and so that's why it's important to realize if you have an idea, you have to be willing to kind of shift your mindset to kind of understand how you can get the help to kind of move forward. And so what we did, we created this playbook, the Startup on the Blocks playbook. And so even though being a founder is all confusing, there's a lot of different things out there, but what we want you to do is follow these steps. And Sam Altman, he used to be affiliated with Y Combinator, and he did a little, I think a 25-minute talk about what it's like to be a founder. And so, so that just listen to that, you'll get the understanding what that founder's journey is like. So, because you really have to, get your mind, out it. But then, so the next question becomes, how do you go from an idea to an MVP and all this stuff to an exit? And so that's when you've got to learn the process, the methodology, the steps that you take. So you can, if you get another idea later on, you can repeat the process. So you have to learn the methodology. So that's what we do. We have the Lean Stack program that teaches you the methodology, and then there are some other resources out there about the methodology. The startup school from Y Combinator, you can enroll in that, and it'll give you some ideas and about the process. The good news is all these programs, you work on your idea, and you that's what's neat about it. You're not wasting time. You're literally coming up with ideas and building your business models and seeing how to go forward. So when you first started, Crystal, did you understand there was a method to the madness?
When I first started, I didn't realize that. I just kind of went in, head first.
Yes. Yes.
But,
yeah. There is a method to the madness.
yeah. There is some real good statistical data, simulations that you can run, which is very interesting and can be very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So the next step is like you got to become known. People got to know you out there building stuff. And so you can't be an island unto yourself working on whatever you're building. So the next thing you have to do is you have to create your a profile in some of the founder sites. So there are sites out there for founders, and that you can build up your individual profile and your profile for your startup idea. And so what this thing does, it provides a track record for you. So when you were at the idea stage, you were doing this. When you were at the concept stage, you were doing this. And when you got your MVP, you was doing this. And so you, when you get in a program or you win a pitch competition, you put all that stuff out there, and that's what gives your people see you're making progress. And then they say, well, I don't know whether I should let Crystal into my program. What's her track record? Then they look at your profile, and then that's when they can actually see that you've actually been working on. They can see who's on your team, etc. But the other thing about having your profiles in these sites, you actually opportunities come to you. People you get on, they start sending you opportunities that match what your startup is all about. And so that's a good. And then you join the local startup communities. And so you said you're in Charlotte. That's a really active startup area, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of banking, a lot of venture capitalists, so it's a pretty big financial hub.
Yes, and I also understand they have some programs there that actually target Black founders. And I can't remember if that underground program is it in Charlotte? I can't remember. But what's neat about that program? It works with founders of color, Black founders, but they have a direct link to the Google Black Founders program. So you become a known, and then they can refer you to that Google Black Founders program where this year they're giving out $150,000, with no strings attached. So you see how you get into programs, and then they refer you to these other programs, but you have to participate in the local startup communities. And also, you don't have to just do local; you can do nationwide now. Everything's online. Yes. And so what we notice in the startup world is that there are typically weekly networking events on Thursday night and best practices events. So that's why we do our networking and our best practice event where we invite ecosystem players in and also founders of different stages. So our audience can actually see people at different stages and realize it's a journey. I remember when we first got started, some of the folks we were trying to recruit and get them trained, this one young lady, she said she wanted to wait to make sure she had a pitch perfect and everything perfect before she got in the founders community. That's not the way it works. You get in the founders community right where you are now, and you start from there and grow. But if you do all those things up there, then you can literally leverage the resources in the startup ecosystem. So is that straightforward enough, Crystal?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, because it's a lot of information out there, but if you can literally focus your what you're doing, it really can make a difference. And so we see Ira is out there in the audience. Glad to have you, Ira. He was also in the Blacks in Technology group this last time, and we got a newcomer, Miss Beasley. We were talking to Curtis and Beasley in the network, and so we're glad to have you all here as well. And I understand their son has had designed a new shoe, a basketball shoe, and so Curtis is trying to get him involved in the startup world so he can see how to get that on the market. And so that's kind of the stuff we can actually help with that. All righty. So questions about the journey. So the lean stack or the lean startup methodology, this is kind of the journey for a founder. You start off over here at the idea stage, and then you design a business model around that idea stage, around that idea. And so basically you're going to learn how to pitch, how you would make money with that idea. And so it's teaching you how to the foundations, which is part of the mindset stuff, and then the designing a business model. So a lot of people start businesses and like Main Street businesses and startup businesses, but don't realize you can actually model that business so you can predict what's going to happen in the future. So have you ever thought about that you can actually create design a business model for your gaming thing, and actually predict all these stages and how much money you're going to make. And so that's what designing the business model is all about. So yeah, and so that's a program that we offer for free to founders out there. So because it's really important that you actually learn how to do that. So you actually took that training, Crystal. What did you think?
I was very shocked because I was thinking that you start your business model after you finish designing your product. I didn't know you started from the very beginning, even before you even begin the creation of it. So especially in gaming, so it's just very
Yeah,
learning. Yeah.
yeah. It's some foundational information that makes a really big difference. And so the next stage is you try to get this milestone where you do the problem solution fit. And so and that's part of our 90-day program that you can apply to kind of get in that program. And so in that phase, you're actually going to be doing that demand generation, and you're going to be validating your framework. And so you're going to learn how to test your business model and establish a repeatable sales process. So this journey is it's just really knowing you have to go through these phases, but you only have to worry about the phase you're in. But you realize it is a journey, and what you're ultimately trying to do is get over here to this product market fit. And so you're proving out your thing. You got customers, and your process is working, and then you can actually scale. So, Krista, I don't know if you realized when you were doing the traction roadmap, you literally were plotting this curve.
Yeah, you're basically simulating how your product would fit in the market based off of your initial financial estimates.
Yes, yes. And so, like, so the neat thing about what's good about the traction roadmap, if you're doing a direct sale to a consumer or a direct sale to a business, you can literally take 7 numbers and actually plot this curve out. So, isn't to me that's really amazing. You could simplify instead of having 3-year projections, you can literally use 7 numbers and plot this curve. That's pretty pretty amazing. So that's what that stage is all about. So here's another way to look at the founder's journey, and this is from the startup science, and this is another program we have where it has, I think right now it keeps adding, but it's like 27 training modules in there that teach you how to go from your vision all the way to an exit. And so in this program, you literally are doing all the documentation for your business, and you're learning all the terms that allow you to communicate with investors or communicate with the accelerator programs that you can get in the program. You literally end up with a whole deck of information that the programs can actually understand what you're doing. And so the neat thing about this program, it has a sample application for an accelerator program, which teaches you how to fill out the application. So that's why it's important. So Crystal, even though when we look over here, what stage are you at in this particular journey? So are
Uh,
you?
I'm in the first 3 months stage.
Yeah, so you're in this this problem solution fit, because this is the stage where you end up at the end. By the end, you have an MVP. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and so because you don't have your MVP yet, right? So you're somewhere in this.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have a MVP yet. So the product is not out there for player testing.
Mhm.
But we're kind of in more of we are in a kind of like a testing phase where
Okay.
we're presenting certain video clips to the customer and getting feedback from them to see how we want to design the MVP for further testing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure people, realize you're at different stages. But the first thing, let me go back to this and explain this a little further. So you go through these phases, these stages, but there's help at each stage. So even if you haven't created your company, and when you're doing this, to me, you don't even have to have your company created, but you're learning before you get out there spending money. But once you know how to pitch your idea clearly and concisely, you can get in like the Microsoft for Startup program, and they'll actually, one of the benefits they have in there is they'll pay for you to get your Delaware corporation. And so it doesn't matter what stage you're at, there's help for all the different stages. So getting back to this, so you're literally, you can call it a business plan, but it's actually a deck that actually helps the investor understand your whole startup. And so that's what this is all about. You're going to learn all the terms that you know how to communicate with all the programs, customer acquisition costs, your total addressable market, everything. You're going to even know what your plan is. With this particular program here, you actually figure out which company you're going to sell your startup to when you're down here at this visioning stage. You do all that kind of research, and then you also pick a company that you're going to follow that's similar to what you're doing. So you actually don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can follow, you can see what other companies that are already out there, how they're doing and what they're doing. And so you pick the one that you're going to follow so you can actually learn, what their approach is. Yes. Hello there, Ms. Mitchell. Glad to have you here from Tallahassee. Okay. So that's what that's all about. So summing all that up, with Startup on the Box, we take you as an individual and we try to make sure you learn the best practice by, taking you through these training programs, providing you some tools to work with, and some events and pitch competitions and mentors, coaches, and all that stuff. And we're literally trying to get you ready to take advantage of some of these programs that are out here. And this is just a sampling of some of the programs, but there's thousands and thousands of programs that some target, women, some target men. It's just every kind of like you say, you're in the banking industry. I bet you they got some corporate programs up there for people who are in the fintech industry. So yeah, that's kind of what we're trying to accomplish with founders to make sure they kind of understand and what the best practices are. So, Crystal, do you think you got a pretty good handle on all the resources that are out there and what you need to take advantage of? Have you figured out the company that's going to buy you once you get all your stuff developed?
Yeah, I have a lot of resource, a lot,
Okay,
and I feel like I'm well supported. So
okay, fantastic. So yeah, there's no reason for you to be out there alone, by yourself. So we were kicking off our second cohort with the Blacks in Technology founders, and so we have one of the founders on our orientation session last night. So he's literally built his whole product, spent his own money and everything, got a contract, and so he was wondering how this program can help him. And so I asked him, I said, what platform are you hosting your solution on? And he said, Amazon Web Service. And I said, are you enrolled in their startup program? He said, no. I said, well, they'll pay up to they'll give you over $100,000 in Amazon credits, and plus they'll help you with your solution. Why wouldn't you take advantage of that? That's $100,000 you don't have to spend. And so that's why you want to participate in the networking events or get in the ecosystem, participate in all these things, because that's how you find out about these things that can kind of help you grow and move forward, with that. Yeah. So I've been, at this stuff for a little while, and so I apologize if I ramble a little bit there, but I just hate to see people, not using their resources wisely and not taking advantage of the resources out there. So this is a trick question. You might know the answer to it. So how much money you think has been set aside for Black founders and minority businesses, since George Floyd got murdered? How much money do you think has been set aside out there for Black minority founders? Crystal?
I don't think it's a whole lot. I
Okay.
think it's just a very small value.
Okay. So like like when the summer George Floyd got murdered in 2020. So shortly after that, SoftBank put up 100 million. Google put up 100 million. All these companies start putting up hundreds of a million, and Bank of America put up a billion. I mean, yeah, $1 billion over 4 years. The But then when COVID happened, these more programs got started for Main Street businesses and nonprofits and stuff. So long story short, I've counted over $50 billion since then for minority-owned businesses from corporate America. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Wow.
so how much money do you think the government has put up to support minority businesses?
I don't know the
It's the
question.
same time period. Another 50 billion for minority businesses, and from a combination of loans to programs to help minority businesses. It's just really crazy. These resources are out there, and so our job is to make sure you as a founder know these things are out there, but what's required is that you literally have to know how to communicate to the folks and organizations that are doing these programs to help you out. Yeah. And so that's what the deal is. And so I think hopefully I've amplified the message enough that founders need to learn the best practices and take advantage of the opportunities that are out there to take you from an idea to a product or service to kind of keep you moving forward. All right, so Crystal, let's we want you to share your journey as a founder. So you said you were a software engineer. So
Yeah.
when did you decide you want to be a software engineer?
It started with my dad. He
Okay.
when he left the army, he ended up doing computer analytics,
Okay.
working with Fortran and
Fortune. Okay.
what was the old one? It wasn't Perl. It was Pascal.
That's
Pascal.
okay. Okay.
And he brought home the very first Windows 95.
Okay.
And I hope you don't calculate how old I am.
I remember Windows 95. I remember Fortran and Pascal.
Hmm.
For all that stuff.
And I was just being nosy and playing around the computer. And I, opened up, I think it was Internet Explorer. Yeah, Internet Explorer at the time. And we had, I think, DSL for internet. It was
Wow. Okay.
AOL, all that. And uh, I was looking at some websites. I believe the first one was
Oh yeah.
yahoo.com. And I was like, oh wow, who built this? How did they build this? And that's when I looked it up. That they weren't using HTML
Mm-hmm.
and servers back then. And I said, well, I want to learn how to do that. And
Okay.
so I did a little bit of HTML like in high school and CSS. And so I wanted to learn more. So I ended up, getting a degree in computer science.
So while in high school, you were starting to focus in on this
Yeah.
this that's so you're as a young Black female, you were probably pretty unique back then, right?
Yeah, Our school wasn't very wealthy, and there were small. We had like a small computer lab, and we, like every lunch hour, I would, go to the computer lab and do stuff on the computer and make HTML. But our high school was trying to encourage more Black people into technology and
Hmm.
engineering. I remember my first computer class, we had to build our own motherboard.
Oh, wow.
So we did computer engineering,
Okay. So this is in high school or college?
high school.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty neat because not too many high schools, get down to that nitty gritty. So that's fantastic. So where did you end up in college?
I ended up at a Capital Technology University. Back then they call them Capital College,
Okay.
but it's a small university in the middle of nowhere in Laurel, Maryland,
Oh, in
next to
Maryland.
NASA. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, but was it a public or private school?
It's a private.
Okay. Gotcha. So what made you choose them?
They were closer to home.
Okay. Gotcha.
I didn't get into Howard University, and I didn't get into, I think it was DC University. So I
Hmm.
ended up getting into Capital Technology University. And I said, oh, it's, still closer to home, and I'm closer to NASA. And that's
Wow.
where my first job was, in NASA.
So what did you do at NASA?
At NASA, I was an intern. I had the opportunity to work with telemetry data. We needed to be able to grab information from the satellites that would be delivered to our ground servers, and then have it shown in a more beautiful way for researchers to review a lot of the space star systems. They wanted like a little Google search engine for identifying certain, I guess, areas of the Milky Way that they've named.
Okay. So the audience may not be familiar with telemetry data. So how would you explain that?
Telemetry data is like it's the space data. It's data about the Milky Way, our solar system. I don't know if you've heard of the Hubble telescope.
Yes. Mhm.
It wasn't out at that time. I think there was another telescope. I think it was the TRIM satellite, which was also being used to monitor the weather around
Okay.
our planet. And we also use that to grab information about weather information,
Okay.
because they had, I think, a contract with the National Weather Service at that time as well.
Okay. So how much interning did you do while you were in college?
I did maybe about a year, I think. No, 2 years. Sorry, 2 years of
That's a lot.
internship. Yeah.
That's a lot. Yeah. Yeah. So that's good advice for the young people is getting that intern. So that means you must have had a lot of confidence by the time you graduated.
Yeah, I had a lot of confidence. I wanted to move more into web development than into back end telemetry stuff. So I
Okay.
ended up getting my first real job at a consulting company called CDI. I think they no longer exist,
So
but
CDI is what it
yeah.
was. Okay.
It was like a consulting staffing company that had a lot of contract with the federal government. So a lot of my early career development was mostly federal.
Okay. So what kind of stuff you were developing?
I
What?
was developing a lot of web applications. Some of it was, I think there was one that I was working as an building an HR application for judges.
Hmm.
They would, special judiciary judges, they would take long PTO, like 6 month PTOs, and they need to come back and be able to see, a lot of their time sheets, their other information. So we were using, I think, Java and IBM at the time.
Hmm. So what? So like, do you think your college or your internships prepared you mostly for that job?
Yeah, it helped out a lot, especially since I came out right after the recession. So I came out and I graduated in 2008, and there was a lot of difficulty finding a job, especially as a junior developer.
Hmm.
And I was able to successfully get a job, and especially in federal government spaces, because they were always looking for new faces to work on, a lot of their applications.
Hmm. Okay. So when did you get this entrepreneur bug?
It actually started a long time ago. I think as a kid, I've
Okay.
always wanted to have my own company. I just didn't know what.
Okay.
um, and I remember playing a lot of video games. I still play a little some video games now, but I've noticed that a lot of the video games didn't have um, a lot of black main characters.
Okay.
And then when they did, they looked, very weird. They just had, one hairstyle, or they would be in more of a European environment, which isn't bad. It's not wrong,
Hmm.
but it just didn't seem relatable to me. And I understand that they were trying to, make it more global appealing and everything, but I said to myself, I said, this needs to change, and there's nobody around to change it. And I'm like, I'm tired of seeing that. So
Hmm. Yeah.
I started in the last 4 years of doing something. I just had it in my head that I wanted to do something like this, but I just didn't know how I should go about it because there wasn't a lot of video game developers at that time, at
Okay.
least that I was aware of, and
Yeah.
I didn't have the connections to meet those people.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So, yeah. So I run into a lot of young people that say they want to be a game developer, and and what I don't, so what steps did you started taking to actually see what it takes to develop a video game?
Obviously, I Googled it. I looked at YouTube channels, uh,
Okay.
and that's how I found some of the gaming engines that are open source, like Unreal Engine, Unity, Cryo Engine is another one. A lot of the big companies they make their own engines,
Okay.
but you can use a lot of the open source ones and learn how to use theirs or make your own using theirs.
Okay.
And like many years ago, there wasn't a lot of, like what you see like Slack or Blacks in Technology. There wasn't a big community where you can find these people outside
Hmm.
of just Nesby. And until
Okay.
recently, I've joined a couple of Discord channels where there is a big community for Black gamers. I think it's called Big, Blacks in Gaming,
Wow.
Discord channel. There's Black game developers.
Yeah.
So, and I'm always, bothering them about, how to do stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I think there are plenty of programs out there now for young people, K through 12, and for to learn about this gaming stuff, and so it's just a matter of trying to get connected to these programs. So it sounds like your experience with Windows 95 and Yahoo, you continued to use that when Google came on the scene.
Exactly. Like I don't like to say I'm old fashioned, but yeah. And yeah, like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of places where you can go and meet them back then, as it
Yeah.
is now.
Hmm.
I guess the internet has blown up with all the the social media apps. You can really find people and ask and share your ideas.
Hmm. Yeah. Yes, that's pretty neat. So it sounds like your father in that technology background, you know, you kind of figure you have to kind of meet more people that are kind of doing the same thing, and leverage the resources that are there. So the simple thing like Googling and finding all these communities is you know, yeah. So you can actually get started and experimenting with your idea. So you're basically saying that you had this idea, about being an entrepreneur, and then you leverage Google to kind of figure out what is it to learn more about the gaming industry. So when you were playing these video games, did you sort of understand what was going on? How from a computer standpoint or a programming standpoint?
Yeah, like I come from, a very programming background. So as I was learning, Unreal Engine and Unity, I was beginning to understand a lot of, how physics work uh, for, moving your character around. I know that Unreal Engine has an apprenticeship program that they just recently started for people who want to learn Unreal Engine and they don't have, the gamer background, a game development background, or game design, and that gave a great opportunity to learn Unreal as well.
Okay, so are you saying you took advantage of that apprenticeship program?
Yes.
Okay, so how did you find that?
Uh, Sorry, I muted myself. So I found that from a friend. They were talking about how they had met someone that was also in the gaming industry, and he gave me the information about it. So it was kind of like a friend of a friend reference.
So how long was that program, and so just tell me about it. A little bit about it.
Sure. The program was about 6 months, and you had an opportunity to create your own video game, like a small sprite
Hmm.
game, 2D game, which was really fun. And we had to just see how it was going um, from the design stage to the development stage and then to the publishing stage.
Okay, so from that experience, did you get some insight on how do you are you familiar with Unity game engine? How to use it?
Yeah, this was Unreal, but I did have opportunity to play Unity. Sorry, not play. Work with Unity at another mentorship program in Washington D.C. They're no longer existing anymore, but we had opportunity to create our own video game, sit with a team of people. One person would design the characters using like a basic Blender program to design characters.
Hmm.
Two people would do the development, and everyone would do like all the testing. But we also have to identify like what is our strategy, like what is our game supposed to do, what is the goal of the player, kind of mapping out how we want to uh, get the player to interact with the game more.
So were you are these two programs were they recently that you got involved in them, or were they a while back, or what? So what time frame were you doing these programs?
Yeah, it was a while back. I don't think they exist anymore. I think this was back in 2015 or 16.
So
I have to
okay.
double check.
So
So
you
it's
were
been
you
a
were you
while.
were you were already adult and out working in industry, yeah.
Mhm.
But so that's what's so interesting about when you kind of know what you got an idea what you want to do, you can kind of leverage the internet to find stuff, leverage your friends to find stuff, and you do it. So like I was connected to a lot of organizations that actually do programs for young people and people out there in the workforce. So I got this email and I clicked on the thing. It said Google apprenticeships, I'm saying I didn't know Google had apprenticeship program, and so they got them for all these different things, and they got plenty of them here in the United States. So can you imagine this resource is out there, and you don't even know it's out there?
Yeah, it's frustrating because I can't apply to it anymore because either it closed or
Yeah,
I'm too old for it.
yeah, yeah. But but see, that's the neat thing when now that you're a founder, now you just start discovering all these programs that are out there for founders.
Yeah, there are some. I found like a lot of useful information for founders for Black gamers and Black game studios
Hmm.
because they've noticed like Riot Games just started a acceleration program recently. It's mostly for mobile game development though, and
Hmm.
oh no, I'm sorry, it's Netflix. It's
Okay,
Netflix.
okay.
They've noticed that there's a big discrepancy of there's not a lot of Black game studios, not a lot of Black characters in gaming, and they want to try to support that.
Yeah. So yeah, you can bet the way the world works now, there's and that's what, like when George Floyd and COVID happened, it illuminated all these disparities, for Black people. And so that's why all these companies, start coming up with these programs. And so I think and so what's interesting about all these variety of programs is, once you find out about them, you can take advantage of them. It really can change your whole life. And so what I like about the startup world, you can, the minute you get an idea and you start working on it and trying to design a scalable business model around it, all these things become available to you. And so that's to me, that I found that pretty amazing after I retired from the government. And then, like I always had the idea, like there's, no matter what you're doing, there are resources out there to help you do it. And so when I started, um, building stuff and doing stuff, I always look for the resources out there. And it literally amazed me that companies will give me free stuff just because I'm a founder. And so you could be at the idea stage and they want to help you have all the resources to get to the next stage. And so, and they're, every time you turn around, so like, you may think like Google, they may have, they may have two or three programs for founders. And so you have to really just realize that the opportunities are there and start searching for them. So what makes you the person to develop a video game that's kind of Afrocentric or got some African background in it? Why are you the one to do that?
Why am I the one to do it? Because no one else wants to do it. So, and I've always wanted to know and was curious about how these video games got created, the whole background of it all, and just also learning the whole business point of it. Um, it's always been interesting to me.
Hmm. Yes. So that's neat. So like so when you're in the startup world, um, you that's the one of the things like the programs that are out there. And when you start trying to seek some investment, those people are going to know, why are you trying to solve this problem? What makes you the person to solve it? And so you literally have to, what's your connection to the problem? And so what would you say your connection to this problem of this like stuff that represent Africa or Black people? What you know?
Um, I'm sorry, my dog is
Well,
back.
that's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We understand. We all at home or wherever.
So the
You
reason
you can pick
why
them up if you want to. Yeah, you can pick them up.
I'm sorry. Mom, leave the dog alone. Leave him alone.
So, yeah, so it sounds like the dog wants some of your attention.
His name is Cujo. Cujo, come here. Come here, Cujo. I'm sorry, y'all.
Sound like Cujo want to be in the video game.
I'm so sorry. But the reason why is because it didn't feel relatable to me. I would play, I think there was one game in particular, like Dragon Age, which was, you get an opportunity to customize your character, but you had like limited customization. I only had like one skin color and maybe about two hair styles. I was just like, this doesn't seem relatable to, Black culture. Like the cornrows was like a standard stereotype, or the afro, and it was just so weird. And the character was often in a European setting, or like maybe feudal Japan fantasy setting, and I do understand European culture, especially medieval culture, but I was just, like curious to know and understand, more about my culture as an African American woman of African descent. I've always been inspired by a lot of African history.
Yeah.
I always told my mom if I never done computer science, I would have been a history major. Because I love history. I love reading about people in the past, and I was inspired by Mansa Musa, South African kingdoms. There was one kingdom called the Mali Kingdom, the Songhai Kingdom. This is West Africa. As well as East Africa, like the Nubian kingdoms. I'm probably not pronouncing the Ethiopian kingdom, but I think it's called Askum kingdom, which was ancient kingdom before. I don't think it was before Egypt, but they I think they were a kingdom that also helped usher in Christianity. In that region, which is interesting. And I was just, so curious about like, how come they don't put this in the video game, and why is it always Europe or Japan or anime?
Yeah. So, but like the reason why I was asking you these questions because this story you just told is kind of like the when you're doing a pitch, you're telling your story, and that's and so what you're doing is you're connecting yourself to the problem and why you're the one to solve this problem. That's why I was asking you that question, because you explained clearly why you were the one to solve the problem. So when you get up and pitching, you literally have to tell that story in a concise manner until people connect with why you are solving this problem. And so you do that like that. That's the first thing you do when you start a pitch. You tell your story, and and so they can see why you're the one to actually solve the problem. So, and that goes a long way in your credibility and what you're doing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's a lot more details when you're
Yeah.
doing your pitch.
Yeah. But so like if you can figure out how to tell that story you just told in about 30 seconds, then people will connect with you and say, yeah, she's the right one to build this. Yeah. And so that's the importance of that story. So just kind of so for so the audience, I definitely want you all to ask questions because we need to help Crystal get to that next stage. She's in that where she's building her MVP now, but we want her to get to that next stage. So so you remember, we want you to be able to pitch your idea clearly and concisely. So have you decided what you're going to charge for your video game?
Not officially. I was looking at a range of. I was looking at a lot of my competition out
Yeah.
there, and what they set their prices for and also looking at my audience, what they would be willing to pay. I noticed that, most of my audience is going to be African American gamers between the ages of 18 and 65. And so they probably don't want to pay, a whole lot for a lot of these big expensive video games.
Yeah, and so and this is why we were having a conversation earlier, Crystal, is so you have to do that traction roadmap and decide on something, even if it's wrong. And then that way you can answer the question clearly and concisely. So don't put off that, any further, go back to that traction roadmap and see what number actually works, and then that way, because like when you want to get into a program, you have to say, well, we charge $50 a month. We have a subscription for our game that's this much, or we bundle it, with this package or thing, and we get this amount per user. So you just have to come up with something, and so there's no question that you've been doing your research. And even if it doesn't matter, even if you would even do this before you actually build it, and so, but it's really important because you're going to need help with what you're doing, right? And so that's why you have to kind of, be clear, and just make a decision on that, so you can literally get some help there. So had you decided the business model that you want to use?
Yeah, I was thinking a subscriber-based business
Okay.
model, because the way that this game I'm building is going to be more of like an episodic chapter release.
Okay.
Each episode or each chapter will release a new, like a new downloadable content or DLC. And for that, I was thinking, oh well, maybe have them pay, for example, $20 each month or every quarter,
Yes.
for each downloadable content.
Right. So let's say if you kind of say, well, you're going to charge a yearly subscription fee, or it could be a monthly one, but you can say, well, even if you just say it's going to be like $100 a year, and you're going to keep, putting these chapters out there. So you can just say, so when you're pitching, you can just say, but it sounds like you're going to sell directly to the consumer. So that means your business model is a direct model to the consumer. But
Right.
if you were selling it to a business, it would be a direct model to a business. So it's important. So we know that's your business model, and you're going to use a recurring revenue method with the subscription. So what you need to do is that traction roadmap. You need to go in there and plug. Let's say you say $20 a month. That's like 12 months. That's $240 a year. So you literally need to go in there and plug that number into that traction roadmap. And then if you want to make 5 million in 3 years, or 10 million in 3 years, then you can see how many people you have to get that game out to in order to do that. And then you can plot that. It'll plot that traction roadmap curve for you. But you almost, you need to go ahead and get that number. So, because that's what you need to pitch. You see what I'm saying? And then, but that's the thing that's going to help you get the help you need to build it, or get you into the programs that you need to get in.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot of the pitching competitions, accelerators, they want you to have your numbers set
But it does,
before you apply. Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, because they're gonna ask you, and
Yeah.
so even if you don't know if they're right or not, but that's why I say the traction roadmap. That's why you want to go ahead and decide that, because that's the that's the communications you're going to actually need to unlock that program that may give you $100,000, no strings attached. It may give you 50,000, may give you 25,000 to kind of help you pay to get your thing developed, or it may be the thing that helps you get a co-founder to help you build it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important, for you to go ahead and do that traction roadmap and just start pitching it, and because that's what when you make a decision, you can find out, if that decision is wrong later, but you need to make a decision. And so you pitching that you're going to have a direct business model where you're marketing to consumers, and you're going to charge $20 a month, and so for that you get these chapters released on a regular basis. Yeah, and you'll be surprised the difference that it'll make on you getting into the programs, and getting the help you need to kind of move forward. So the question, you have to ask yourself too: does Unity have a startup program? Does Unreal have a startup program? And then so just going on from that standpoint. Yeah. So does that make sense, Crystal?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because you don't want to be out there working and building and not have that business model already done. That's a mistake you can make. That's not the mistake you want to make. So I'm trying to think what else is. So how do people sell video games? Do they sell them on websites or on platforms or marketplaces? How do you get your game out there?
There are a number of ways of doing it. You can do it through a publisher, like a third party
Okay.
company, and you would have to kind of uh, go through their contract or negotiate with them about how you would go about promotions, setting up the price, and they can also work with some of the console gaming um, platforms like Xbox,
Okay.
PlayStation, Switch. Uh, Now there's a new thing that's coming out now where you can self-publish,
Okay.
uh, and I think like I did see it. Xbox is having like an accelerator program for people who want to, or game studios or game developers who want to self-publish their game on their platform.
Okay.
Uh, and they have, of course, you have to go through a lot of their contracts and stuff like that. Uh, and Steam is another one. It's another third party game platform. Itch.io is another one. Um, and they've set their own, like they might take 3% of royalties.
Okay.
Um, it's all based on, whatever their contract says.
Gotcha. So tell us real quick on what all the pieces that you need to create a video game. Like what kind of artifacts do you actually need?
The first thing I guess you would need is to come up with the concept design.
Okay.
If you have like an artist to kind of help give you a more visual understanding of how your game is going to be. Of course, you need your story. If you're doing something similar to what I'm doing, which is like a role playing game, yeah, you definitely going to need a story because your character is going to be based on I guess a plot or a storyline. Um, After that, you have to determine what type of engine you're going to use, whether you're going to use Unity, Unreal, Cryo Engine. If your video game is going to be multiplayer based, which is a lot more complicated but popular right now,
Mm-hmm.
you do have to worry about a lot of the infrastructure. If you're going to be using a cloud platform like Amazon, Google Cloud. And then there's another one. I'm not sure of the name yet, but
Mm-hmm.
there is a specific one for multiplayer video games
Mm-hmm.
for game studios.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think it's Cryo Engine, but I have to double check. And uh, like I said, if you're doing something like that, which is a lot more complicated, you do have to worry about the payload, the cost of putting that up there, preventing hackers, network, and
Yeah,
everything.
gotcha. So yeah, there's a lot involved. So yeah, but so what advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about creating a video game?
So first, just try to figure out what type of game you're going to be developing. There's so many different types. You've got point of click. You got what is it called? Uh, I always forget these. It's similar to tabletop games,
Okay.
card games, and of course multiplayer, which is interesting. Sorry, uh, first person shooter, third person games like RPGs, role playing games,
Hmm.
simulations. Kind of identify what type of game you're gonna make. Uh, Identify what engine you're gonna need for those particular games. Identify your user base, who's gonna play it, and then figure out how you're gonna market the game out there because you have to market the game out there before you even start developing it.
Yes. Gotcha. So it sounds like there are some best practices for the gaming industry. So basically, yeah. So what so if you so let me just I'll go this way first, and we can wrap up. So what's your next stage, or what's your next milestone you're trying to get to for your startup?
Right now, it's to solidify my roadmap. To solidify that, um, once I have that solid, I'll feel more confident in doing my story pitches. When I present it to Xbox or Code Coven, there's a lot of accelerators out there, but I want to be more confident when I pitch my ideas to them. So yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, so it sounds like so right now you're saying you're actually so tell me what at the stage you're at now, what are the kind of things you're doing?
So right now, we're almost finished with the arts design of the game. I had to sketch out a lot of the levels that are going to be involved specifically for when we do play testing. Play testing is where you have your customers, your audience is going to go in. It's kind of like an MVP-ish
Okay,
style. You use that to kind of get information about who's playing your game, what they like about your game. It's more like market research, I would
okay,
say. Uh, and once you have that, like a trailer, gameplay out there, is another way of doing it. Um, you can kind of, I guess, base your business model off of that, of
mhm,
how you're going to reach your customers, how are they going to pay for your product, what platform is better, because maybe if they play it on Xbox versus PlayStation, maybe the graphics look weird. You know?
gotcha. Okay. So yeah, there's sounds like there's a lot involved, and so it also sounds like from what you're saying that there is a method that is used for developing video games, and there's phases that you actually go through to actually do it. So
Yes.
yeah. So when people say I want to be a game designer, I wonder if they know that there's all this is involved in being a game designer. Yep. So we could go on and on talk about this kind of stuff, but is there any takeaway stuff that you want to share with leave the audience with?
Yeah, I just dropped a comment in a message box. It's a YouTube video about the video game development roadmap.
Oh,
And it
okay,
explains a
that's
lot
great.
about how the video game process works, market research, play testing, alpha testing, and finally getting your game out there into the world.
Okay. That's how I posted one of the links you had earlier about why no black people in games.
Mhm.
So what's that video all about?
So it's another disgruntled person, disgruntled gamer who, quite upset at that, a lot of the mainstream video games companies don't have black characters or not enough black main characters, and that is, overwhelmingly white. So
Okay, okay. All righty. So yeah, so let's just see. Okay, I'll put this other one out here. You have your video game thing. Let's get that out there so people can actually see it. But yeah, that's I think you shared some really great, helpful information to kind of help people get started there. Yes, yeah. So you think you're going to be ready to apply for the BIT Launch Accelerator, the Blacks in Technology Launch Accelerator, where at that point you're going to be starting to build your MVP?
yeah,
That that starts in June.
yeah, I'm gonna be ready.
Okay. All righty. So yeah, but go ahead and like I was telling you earlier, you need to, like definitely get your lean canvas and your traction roadmap down really good because that's going to be that's kind of like required before you go to that next stage. Yes. All righty. So we definitely thank you for being here. We appreciate the audience out there, and we'll be back next week and on Thursday. So be on the lookout. We'll get the announcement on our guests out there as soon as we can. So thanks a lot, Miss Crystal. And would you just hang on a little bit after we finish? All righty. Bye bye, everyone. We'll see you all next week.